Hi everybody, I hope you're well and dandy out there in Beatles land, YouTubers, people of the interweb, record collectors around the world, and the VC, vinyl community, and anybody else that's just come across this little channel. I bought a massive collection of cassette tapes. I'm going to give you a little background story first, and then I'll go into what I've got and a few other things. So I saw some tapes on eBay, and it was something like 30 tapes, make an offer, and they're all pre-recorded tapes. So the things like this, they're all pre-recorded. Yeah, right. So I ordered them, I put a bid in, dead cheeky bid. The bid was accepted. Didn't think any more about it. I did say there was all Beatles, stuff that off the radio and things like that. And then a couple of days went by, and I went back on eBay, and I noticed the same advert had come back up. So I thought, well, that's strange. So I got in contact with the seller, and I says, has something gone off here? I thought I'd bought these. And the seller came back to me straight away and just says, Dave, I've got more than one lot. I've got loads and loads of these tapes that were all my father's. He was an avid Beatles collector, a Beatles fan, and a Beatles fanatic. And in the, the 70s, 80s and 90s, even up to the 2000s, if anything was ever on the radio about the Beatles, he'd tape it. And I go, so how many tapes have you got? And they says, let me count them and I'll get back to you. Well, fair enough. Wasn't really expecting to get anything back. They came back within a couple of hours. They goes, well, with the ones that you've already bought, there's about 300 tapes. And I was thinking, it's a shame to split them up really, isn't it? So I just says, well, do you want me to have the whole lot? If you've got a figure in your head, I'll have the whole lot, and then your father's cassette tape collection will remain intact. You won't have to split it up. And she's going, yeah, I didn't really want to split it up. So she came back with the price for the whole lot. So this is for the 300 tapes and the posting, the packaging, which was acceptable to me, and it was acceptable to the seller. And I do think I've done the right thing by trying to keep this collection together. I mean, this is somebody's lifetime collection. So the deal was done, and basically I have paid pennies for these, and I do mean pennies. Now I'm gonna have to stand up and show you these. So this is one box full, and then this is going to be very, very hard to show you because this is as heavy as anything. Then there's this box, and this is full of cassette tapes as well. All right, you can see all that. So there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tapes I've got to listen to. These came on, I think it was Thursday, Saturday day. Yeah, they came on Thursday. Now the thing is, they're all pre-record tapes somebody's made off the radio, so not like licensed from EMI or anything like that. I haven't had time to play hardly any of these. I played a few, and the thing is, on some of them, it's got wrote down on the side what it is, but then when you open the tape up, there's absolutely nothing written on it. That's not a criticism, by the way. So I've had a quick look through, and I thought, well, I'll just take out a few that look the most appealing, and I'll show you the ones that I have played. So the first one that I played was, this is actually quite rare, I think. This is Paul McCartney in concert, Let It Be Live in Liverpool at the Royal Albert Dock in June 1990. All right, so that's how the tape came, with just that writing on it. It didn't have anything on the labels, so I have actually put on now Paul McCartney, June 1990, live at the Royal Albert Dock. Yeah, and then on the B side, so it's a whole tape. Bearing in mind this is a 90-minute tape, so I think it is the whole concert. Now I was thinking, yeah, they've probably been stored in a box somewhere for years and years and years, and they'll sound absolutely rubbish. So this was the first one that I actually tried. Put it on my Denon tape deck, This played absolutely fantastic. That is actually, I'd say that's sort of like on par with CD quality. So that was really, really enjoyable to listen to. I think this was off Radio 1, BBC Radio 1. There's lots of other tapes in this collection. There's tapes the chap made himself, you know, like Beatles hits and things like that. There's a lot of things called the Beatles Golden Hour and the Beatles on Capital Gold and the Beatles on Capital and stuff like that, which I think is just programs it was on the local radio stations like Capital Gold and things like that. Then there's this one. This was a very, very interesting one. It actually says Beatles songs from the radio. Well, actually, just said John, Paul, George, and Ringo on the thing. Again, that is in the chap's handwriting. That's not mine. Now, the A side is John, Paul, George, Ringo, which is basically a homemade tape of some of the Beatles hits, and then, excuse me, some solo songs in with it as well. The B side is the most interesting. It's John Lennon 10th anniversary of his death. Interview. Very, very good. Now, the interview only goes on for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I can't work out who it's with. I know they do mention Andy Peebles at the beginning of it. And some of the interview is with him, which was one of the last interviews John did before he died. So that is very, very interesting. And then it goes, when that's finished, there's a little interview with Paul McCartney, and then it goes back into like a collection of Beatles songs. Then there's this one. This is George Harrison Profile. I've just played this before making this video, and it is what it says. It's a profile of George's life in music and beyond. And it's presented by a bloke called Paul Gampuccini. He was very, very big in the UK. I think he still is active in the radio world. Don't know if you've ever heard of him in America. I think you do, because I think he actually came from America or Canada. I've played that all the way through. That was very, very interesting, and I found quite a few things that I didn't know just listening to that tape. Now, some of the other things are things like this. You've got the Beatles story, George before John and Paul. So that is actually all about George Martin. You know, most people think, yeah, George Martin, he got lucky, produced the Beatles, but George Martin had produced a lot of artists before the Beatles, and he was more known for his comedy work, to be honest. He used to produce things like the Goons and Peter Sellers and, you know, people like that, Harry Seacombe and, you know, people like that. Again, I haven't played that one yet, but that is the next one I'm going to play. Then there's Paul McCartney interview, part 2. So there is a Paul McCartney interview, part 1. I think there's about 5 parts to this from what I can remember. You know, these things, I don't really know what to do with them, to be honest, folks. I didn't want the collection to be split up, but I don't know if I'm ever going to have the time to listen to all these. I mean, I will over time, don't get me wrong, I will over time, but these really need to be in some sort of museum or radio station where they can clean them up, and then if there's anything, you know, worth saving on them, you know, that's probably the best thing that could happen to them. How I'd get that done, I don't know. There's this one. This is George Martin Sound of the 60s. Again, that is, I presume that is like the music, the songs that he produced, the records he produced before he started producing the Beatles. So, you know, there is some interesting things on there. I know this isn't going to be to everybody's, you know, cup of tea, but I'm just showing you what is in this thousands or hundreds of tapes that I've got. John Lennon in My Life, take 1, which I believe that was a show on, is it LBC in London? And I think that ran for, I know you could get it on bootleg LPs years ago. Again, I haven't listened to this one yet, but I know there's about 7 tapes, you know, 7 different, you know, say volume 1, volume 2, and all that. I think it goes up to volume 7 with them. So that's another one, that's volume 2. But then on the tapes, there's nothing on it, so it doesn't say what it is. So if I ever lost the cases, I wouldn't know what they were, would I? So you know, that's why I've tried to put a few things on the ones that I do know what it is. John Lennon live piece in New York City. So he has that. It has actually got written on there what's on it, but it's actually press to play first, and then it's live piece in New York City. But again, nothing written on the cassette tapes. I mean, I can write on there, can't I? So it's not the end of the world, is it? Then there is George Martin talks to Annie Oakley on XL. Well, I presume XL was a radio station. So again, that will be an interview tape. So I mean, some of these, I presume these radio stations probably wiped a lot of these things once they've been aired. That's Tug of War and Milk and Honey. They've even tried to put the thing on there, but then again, nothing on the tape. Beatles Forever. There's about 65 tapes for this, and it goes volume 1 up to 65. In fact, I think it goes into the hundreds or something on them. Again, I think that was a radio show that was like over so many years. The Beatles Forever volume 65, that one is. So see what I'm saying? There's lots and lots and lots of things in there, and I know that most of them will be of historical value, if nothing else. And to be honest, for what I've paid for them, even if they all sounded crap, I could tape over them. Because all you used to do, and I bet these haven't had it done, is, yeah, if you wanted to keep it, you used to block the thing, you used to knock the thing out there, didn't you? But yeah, so like I say, for what I've paid for these, which is basically pennies per tape, I think I've got quite a good bargain there. But I'm in a dilemma now because I don't really know what to do with them. If that makes sense. Yes, I want to keep them all together, but should I try and donate these to some sort of research centre, or I honestly don't know what to do with them. I mean, a lot of them might sound crap. I mean, all I can say is I've played those 3 fully so far, and that actually sounded okay. Yes, I did buy a new tape cleaning tape thing for my cassette player. But yeah, so what would you do with them? Would you just keep them, or I don't know. I mean, in one way, I do want to keep them, but I'm ever going to play them. That's what I'm trying to say. Am I ever going to get to know what's on every one of those? The way my work pattern is at work, it probably took me a few years to listen to all these. So that's that bit out of the way. So that's what I've bought. Like I say, I am really, really happy to have them, and I know I'm a what do you call it, custodian of this chap's work now. Some of them are mixtapes like you used to make when you was a kid, just the best of the Beatles and things like that. But then the interview ones, I think, could be, of interest to somebody. I don't know who, but what would you do with them, folks? Or would you just leave them in a box and never play them? I don't know. I don't want to do that. That's one thing I don't want to do. Excuse me. So, at the 300, so I've got another 297 of these to listen to. Bearing in mind I'm back at work on Monday. I might get a chance to listen to a couple more before I go to work. And if I know what's on them, if I can read what's on them, I will try and put the labels on the tapes, because I've got things that I can make labels with anyway, even if it just says a John Lennon interview or something like that. But I don't, I know they're not worth anything, put like that. But it is nice to keep them all together, isn't it? And that's like what the person that sold them, I think, wanted to do, was to keep this collection together, because obviously it was their father's who's passed away. But yeah, I'm not in any hurry to make a decision, but I think if there was a radio station or somewhere that could look at these tapes, just to see if there's anything of interest in them, I don't know, because it's like when I was growing up, we used to have a lot of independent radio stations, i.e., they weren't owned by the BBC or anything like that. And a lot of those, like wherever I lived, it was Radio Trent in Nottingham, and I think it was VAM FM in Derby, and I think it was Leicester Sound or something in Leicester. They don't exist anymore. You've just got like your Capital Golds and things like that now, which are okay. I've got no problem with them. So I know when Radio Trent closed down, they sold all their records, all their tapes, and everything. So if there was an interview from Radio Trent about the Beatles, that might have been wiped. Do you see what I'm getting? So they're not really worth anything, but they could be of historical importance. Some of those things. I mean, that one. What was it? The one where John Lennon's talking on the 10th anniversary of his death. There's a 20th anniversary of his death. There's Paul McCartney's 50th birthday, Paul McCartney's 55th birthday, and things like that. So there is a lot of things in there. I've just got to get the time to listen to them, basically. But yeah, so I'm really, really happy to have them. I just don't really know what to do with them now. And until I've listened to them, I won't really know what I want to do with them, will I? If that makes sense. I know when I said I was going to buy these, some people says, well, why are you buying pre-recorded cassettes? And I did try and say, because I don't know what's on them. It's like going crate digging into it and being blindfolded and picking a record out. Although you might know it's by the Beatles or by John Lennon or something, but you don't know what it is on it till you get it home. So that's that. The other thing is, if you watch my video from a couple of days ago when it was announced about these Beatles US albums coming out, first it was supposed to be 6, but now it's 8, isn't it? Because you get the Beatles story with it, don't you? And they are going to be mono, apparently, and you can buy them separate or you can buy them as a box set. Now, as I record this, I looked on the Beatles.com earlier on, and if you buy it as a box set, I think it's £233 at the minute, but then obviously you'll have postage on that. If you buy them separate, they're about £32 each, which I don't know if that's worth it or not. Bear in mind, I've already got the LPs anyway. I've got the original 1960s ones, but it would be nice to get brand new 180 gram pressings. But then again, even saying that, I have got this. So all of those albums are in here. So you've got in here, you get Meet the Beatles, the Beatles' second album, A Hard Day's Night original motion picture soundtrack on United Artists, Something New, and then the Beatles story. So I've got them on CD and I've got the original pressing. So do I really need to get these new versions? Now, my sensible head is saying, Dave, you don't need them. You really don't need them. But my collector's head is saying, you do need them. So what do? Do I go for the box set or do I go and buy them individually? At the minute, I think if I am going to get them, I might just get them individually. Because, as my old mate Beatley Tone of Beatley Tone's Beatles channel said, he's had the Beatles story since 1976 and he's played it about once. Now, the selling point that the Beatles camp is saying is that album, the Beatles story, is exclusive to this new box set, but yet it was in here. So that's made this now redundant, but it isn't, is it? Because you know what's going to happen next. And next year or the year after, they'll do the Beatles US albums volume 2, and you'll get Beatles 6, Help original motion picture soundtrack, Rubber Soul, Yesterday and Today, maybe Revolver, you'll get Revolver, and Hey Jude. Right now, technically, if it's the American albums, Magical Mystery Tour should have been in this, but it's not, because Magical Mystery Tour is now part of the UK catalogue, although it never was, which is very, very strange, isn't it? So, if this Beatles in mono USA 1964 LP box set is successful, you know what the next one's going to be, don't you? Or is that just me being skeptical? I'm not bothered either way. I really am not bothered. Another thing that somebody has mentioned is when you bought this, thinking these were the American albums. Yeah, they are the American albums, and the track listing is in the order it would have been on the American albums, but they use some of the British mixes on it, not, i.e., not the Dave Dexter mixes. Now, I can remember playing Beatles 65 on this, and I am sure that the mix of I Feel Fine and She Is a Woman are the Dave Dexter mixes. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But yeah. But then again, this isn't cheap. Although, I think somebody put on Facebook, this in America or wherever you can get this, this has gone down in value. You can get these brands, you can still buy this brand new apparently. Has gone down by about $50 since the announcement of the new box set. Now, as Beatle fans, I think most of us are probably disappointed because we're not getting the Rubber Soul box set this year. But I think, in all honesty, the Rubber Soul box set should be released next year because it'll be 2025. So it'll be its 60th anniversary, won't it? But why, if they're doing that, why didn't they do something in England as well, where you could have had A Hard Day's Night and Beatles for Sale? Do you know what I mean? I think Apple have got the right idea in one way, because the American albums technically have been out of print for a long time. And if you ever see any of the original American albums in the UK, they are usually battered up copies. I mean, I'm lucky when I started doing my collection, they were still pretty easy to come by decent copies. They're not mint, don't get me wrong, they're not mint, but you weren't paying stupid money and they were nice playable copies. This helped. But then again, there was another one, there was a volume 1 and a volume 2 Capital albums as well that came out before this. I just think it's all a bit confusing, to be honest. So am I going to get any of the new US Mono 1964 albums? In all probably, yes. Am I going to get the box set? I don't know. Am I going to buy them individually? I don't know. That's all I can say on that one, to be honest, folks. So I hope you're all well and dandy. I've actually been even tidying the record room up today, the music room. I've done a bit of a purge as well, and I have gone through about, what did I go through? 1, 2, 3, 4. I've gone through 800 albums, and I've had to be very, very strict with myself, and ones that I know that I'm never ever going to play again, I've put to one side. And now I've got my Kinks and my Who and all that lot on there, albums that I do still play. And the other ones, which I think I got rid of around 400 so far, I gave to my next door neighbour Dennis. Said, "Do you want these records?" And he goes, "Well, how much you want from?" I said, "Nothing." I mean, there was classical things in it and disco and things like that, stuff I will never ever play again in my life. So yeah, I've done me little bit of purging, helping the environment by passing those records on to my next door neighbour. So that's it. That's about it for today, folks. Not really a lot else to say. I am glad Apple are doing something, or the Beatles are doing something. Oh, and some news that's just come in apparently. If it's true, Paul, cousin Paul in my case, Paul McCartney, is going to be releasing a new album next year in 2025 and doing a world tour. That'd be interesting to see if that is actually true or not. Can't remember what I saw. I know I saw it on something earlier on. It would be nice to get some new material from Paul, won't it? So that's going to be it. That is really going to be it. Thank you to everybody that is subscribing, leaving me likes, leaving me comments. If you've liked this video, leave me a thumbs up. If you think, Dave, you've wasted your money on these, leave me a comment. If you think, Dave, yeah, some interesting things in there, leave me a comment. See, the only thing with me is I don't really know what to do with them. Um, it's like I don't think I realised how much material I was getting, which is good for what I've paid for them, isn't it? And these what I've played so far have sounded absolutely fantastic. Got no problem with them at all. But I should imagine once I start going through them, there is going to be some that don't sound very good. But again, for what I've paid for them, which basically pennies, I got the whole lot for less than £60, I think it was, and that was with the postage and the packaging. In fact, I don't even know if it was that much. I can't remember now. I know it wasn't a lot. I know it worked out well £100. Like I say, pennies each. Now, how much? If you can still buy blank tapes, I mean, I don't know if you can or not. How much is a blank tape? Probably a couple of quid, aren't they? So even if the worst came to the worst, and I wanted to tape over them all, which I don't, by the way, I'm not going to do that. So I don't think I've really wasted my money, if that makes sense. I can see potential in them, and whatever I do with them, they will stay together as a collection. Because I did say that to the person I bought it off. It'd be nice to keep your dad's collection together, and they've got good aim here. I'm in no rush to go through them all. I just thought I'd show you roughly what's in it, and the ones that I've played so far, which, to be honest, out of 300, it isn't many, is it? But they do go on for like an hour and a half each, So yeah, as I do a few more of these, and I might do another video. If you wanted this to become an occasional series, what have you discovered on the tapes? Let me know, because that could be a good idea for an occasional series. In fact, I think we might do that. Drop me a comment if you'd want to see something like that. If you'd be interested in seeing something like that, please let me know. Right, remember, you are the beat of Beatle Dave. Without you, I'd be such a happy chap, and I wouldn't know what to do with my spare time. And I do love you all. A splendid time is guaranteed for all, as I keep saying, and I am trying to entertain you as much as I can, and things like this, I think this would make quite an interesting mini series. But like I say, if you've got any comments, please let me know. If you think, yes, Dave, once you've played about 10, and we know what's on them, to do a little video on them. Which is probably the best thing to do, isn't it? Thinking about it. Right, okay, peace, love and happiness to you all. Remember, Beatle Dave loves you, and until the next time, it's love and peace, man. Love and peace. Cheerio, everybody. Bye.